So, I'm here with our Information Services Director, John Costa, and we've got some news about broadband in New Bedford, right? So broadband nationally is a hot topic, and I'll just say a word for why that is. Some of this is risk stating the obvious, but in today's world, internet service, reliable, affordable internet service is more of a need than a want. It's more of a basic necessity than a luxury. And we're now familiar with the reasons for this. We live in a world in which we're constantly, some of us more than others, I didn't bring my phone, which is good for me. I'm trying to break the habit where we're constantly connecting with people on the internet. And I'll dial back one story that when that really hit home to me. When I first ran for office, the final debate we had for that campaign in 2011, there were 800 people in the Zeitarian Theater to watch that final debate. Fast forward 4 years to a debate that we had at the Whaling Museum in a hotly contested campaign. There were all of 40 people sitting in for the debate. And the difference was, it wasn't that people weren't paying attention to the debate, they were all watching it live streamed on Facebook. And so it hit home, it really underscored for me just a really rapid shift that we've seen in the way that people connect with one another. So, but it happens in every facet of life. And again, there are some things I just really want to highlight. So we connect with one another in various ways. Businesses have to be digital these days. Healthcare is delivered remotely in so many ways nowadays as well. South Coast Health is jumping well into the business of healthcare, of remote healthcare, of telemedicine. We connect with one another on all manner of things just by texting, by email, by every electronic means that we have at our disposal. And education has turned decisively in the direction of remote instruction. During the pandemic, I was deeply concerned about the education that our kids in New Bedford were getting. Especially early on when we started to do remote instruction, we had very poor remote attendance, as did urban schools all over the United States. The issue was, of course, that so many kids, and just became plainly evident to us, there were so many kids who either didn't have service because it was unaffordable for their families, or that the service was so poor that when they logged on and their neighbors logged on in the next apartment, the bandwidth didn't allow for students to stay on. So you had months and months of instruction go by when kids just weren't even connected to the classroom. So in light of all that experience, we said, we got to take a look at this. We have in the city, we don't have service that is reliable all the time. We don't have fast service. What we have primarily is a service that is provided by the legacy cable TV provider over legacy coaxial cable. In other words, copper lines. And more importantly, what we do get is not cheap. It is really expensive. And so I've been hearing it from people all over the city for a long time. Cable's expensive, and the internet service that comes along with it is expensive. And so what we want to do is we said, well, let's take a look at it. So we took some ARPA funds. Liz Rhoda from Congressman Keating's offices here. Congressman was a big supporter of ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act. Sorry, Des, I'll keep it here. It's all right. Sorry. Thank you. So we went ahead and we went out and hired CTC Technologies, which is the leading firm in the space, the one that helps municipalities, has helped countless municipalities figure out how to deliver, how to enable the delivery of broadband services reliably and effectively to their residents. So that's what we did. We launched the study. We spent almost $400,000 in ARPA funds for that study, and so here it is. This is it. This is what we're announcing today. It's this study. I'll hold up the report, and then I'll just sort of summarize the findings for all of you guys. But this is a study that comprehensively details what our challenges are and, frankly, what the solutions are. It's complicated stuff. We know that there are lots of providers out there, more providers than just the one primary one that services the city, but we also wonder, well, why aren't more providers entering our market? Why is there, in effect, a monopoly here? And because the existence of that monopoly is driving up prices and not allowing for other service options to come in. So we did this, and you can get a copy for yourself by clicking on the QR code right there. But let me just talk about the findings. The findings of this, that New Bedford customers have limited options for internet service, and the lack of competition has kept services high. So 2/3 as part of this study, a survey of New Bedford residents and businesses was done. 2/3 of the respondents reported that they pay more than $100 a month for cable for their internet service. $100 a month. When you think of it, a city where the median household income is about $52,000 a year for a family of four, that's pretty significant just to get online. And then once you're online, the service is, again, not provided by fiber-optic cable, with a few exceptions around the city. It is provided over coaxial cable, old copper lines, which don't deliver fast, which have far lower bandwidth. So the other big finding was related to that. It's really slow. What we have here in place is really slow. So 61% of the tested locations recorded internet speeds below the FCC standard, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, John, it's 100 megabits down and it's 100 up, 100 down and 100 up. So when you download something, it has to go at a certain speed, when you upload, it has to go at a certain speed. So those speeds defined by the Federal Communications Commission are 100 megabits up and down. You'll hear those terms, but bottom line is you know when you see it. You know if you're on a computer where there's high-speed internet service, it goes up and down in the blink of an eye. Well, we don't have that, and so that has inhibited the ability of students and others in our city to get online and to get what they need efficiently, effectively, and seamlessly. So we don't have great service here, and I want to say that this part of the study was not something that CTC did for us. Erwin Jacobs, New Bedford native, founder of Qualcomm, a man who's largely responsible for the basic technology and everybody's cell phone, helped fund this part. He funded actually all of this part, and we appreciate his help along the way. It's been very invaluable in helping us understand what our needs are. So we have this problem. We went out and did a survey that confirmed what we suspected: low speed, high prices. So we go on so we've been working on this for a while. So we've been quietly laying the foundation for an internal municipal service for the last few years. So we've put 60 miles of fiber into the city infrastructure, as well as the infrastructure owned by the private sector, and that we can only use that for internal municipal purposes, and we've been doing that. So that's allowed city government, among other things, to be able to back up much of its systems in a very efficient way. So there's a lot of redundancy in it, and I won't go into the detail, but what we have there is What we have in place is something that allows city government to get the kind of service that people in the private sector should be getting in our city. So what are we doing now? Well, we're gonna, with the information that we have, we're gonna go out to the market. We will soon issue a request for proposals for internet service providers to come into the city. And because we have this study in hand, we can say to the market, this is exactly what's needed. And we'll ask them, is there government support that you need? So we can define that. So we were basically trying to lower all the barriers to entry for all these internet service providers to come on in and offer services that aren't offered at prices that aren't offered right now. And so that's the idea. So that is what is coming. And the goal is just to create a more competitive environment, because with more competition, we stand a better chance of getting better service and lower prices. So those kids that I referred to earlier, we will have fewer of them, hopefully none of them, who will say, look, I can't get online. And because even though we're past the pandemic, much of what kids do these days, much of their education is online. Everybody's got a laptop in the New Bedford Public Schools. And teachers deliver, and students interact with their teachers by email these days. I've seen it with my own kids. Parents get online to check their kids' grades through systems like Aspen, which is what we have in New Bedford Public Schools. They interact with the school far more digitally than they ever have before. They can't do that without reliable service, and service that they can actually afford. So we're going to put out an RFP. The premise, the expectation in the RFP, the central one, there's a lot of detail and some of it's technical, but the central premise is we want ubiquitous service. We want service, good service, to be offered to everybody in every corner of the city, regardless of neighborhood. And that's, so you will see that coming up in the next few months. We want to get, the next few months, probably the next few weeks. And we'll get some feedback from the city council as well along the way, so that we can make sure that we're putting our best foot forward. So that is where we are. And so there's a lot of detail in the report. And what we hope is, the reason we're doing it is, I will say this to our residents, we can't guarantee that there will be a certain level of service at a certain price. These are services provided by the private sector. And all we can do is make sure that the barriers to entry are removed. And the way we did that is by going out and doing our homework. And by that I mean you go out and find the best consultant out there and get every question answered, and they're all answered in here. And so and I will just say, by the way, as part of the study, they went out and sounded the market, as they say. They went out and went to some of those internet service providers who are not in New Bedford and asked, would you be interested? And so we got a number of really favorable responses. So this isn't an exercise in tilting at windmills. We really feel strongly. We're very encouraged that we'll have some folks who will step up and say, yeah, we'd like to come into New Bedford. So I'll stop right there. And I don't know if that was the last. That is the last slide. And that's it. All right. Anybody have a question? Jeannie, yeah. Are you a member of the media today?
Excuse me?
Are you a member of the media today? Was it just?
No.
All right, hold on. Let me see if let me just. Are you representing New Bedford Light?
I can say that I'm representing them. I'll go back and do some.
Are you reporting?
No.
All right. Let me ask the report. Let me just give the reporters first dibs, and then I'll go to you. You guys have anything? Okay. All right. Go ahead, Jeannie.
Okay. So I did a little homework last night, and I had a ton of questions. But when the governor was here, or had their panel here at the Whalen Museum, as a resident, as a retired resident.
Which panel are you talking about? I'm not sure.
Well, this was the panel that the governor had at the Whalen Museum about some of the issues that are dealing with here in New Bedford in terms of education, affordable housing, and all of that. And they even talked about seniors. So my issue,
I'm not familiar with what she did.
That's fine. I'm going to lead up to my question.
Yeah, go ahead.
And my question is, as it was then too. As you mentioned, cable access is horrendous. The cost of cable access.
Gus from cable.
Well, I'm familiar with cable access. I'm not talking about that particular cable access because I do take advantage of that as well. I'm talking about Comcast, okay? And when we talk about fiber optics, I'm all for that. I'm all for the youth getting what they need in terms of their education. That's very important. I'm also concerned, as I said, homeowner, retired, employee of the state and the city, and paying my taxes and everything that's going up in prices. What's going to happen with fiber optics with landlines? Is this going to affect landlines? And whereas I pay so much for Comcast, well, Comcast cable, plus I have my landline, how is this going to help senior citizens, which I am?
Yeah. Well, you don't look like a senior citizen.
I know, thank you, but I am.
Yeah.
But that's been bothering me because I hear this.
Well, that's the whole idea behind this. There's effectively a monopoly here, and it's not just me saying it. I think we all know it, and that's what the report confirms. And so the idea is, if you introduce competition, if you invite in other providers who say, "I'll give you better service at a lower price," then you will start to see lower prices. Or at least not increases as great as we've experienced them. Cable/internet service in the city is way too expensive, and it's in part expensive because of the fact that there's no competition here. So the whole purpose here is to do exactly what you're suggesting, which is to try to give people other options and let companies compete for that business. And that means when you compete, that usually means somebody's going to step up and say, "I'll give it to you for less."
Okay, but is that going to do away with landlines? Is fiber optics going to take away having been able to have as an option landline?
Not necessarily, no.
They're
just coming in and offering other services. If somebody wants to, if there's market demand still for landline services, I still have a landline. Somebody will fulfill that gap. But the problem we have here is a market failure. We don't have others coming into the market, and we're trying to look at. And there are places in New England. Most of them are very affluent places in the Boston area that do have high-speed internet service, and they've had it for a while. It's not all that prevalent here. Mattapoisett has it, but that's pretty much it. Fairhaven, Dartmouth do not have it. The city obviously doesn't have it. So what we're trying to do is to say, okay, what is it going to take to have you come on in here? So we have right now pending grant applications with the state, so that if one of the things that we have to do is offer some kind of subsidy to deal with that market failure, because when these companies come in, they're going to have to spend some money to put more infrastructure in, and that's what we'll do.
Well, I'm all for change and good change, and especially when it comes to working with the youth, and also keeping in mind, because people keep forgetting about the senior citizens. I never thought I'd be sitting here talking about the senior citizen rate, but that's so important because I hear it right across the board in this community about people not being able to afford internet.
That is exactly what we're doing.
Good.
Yeah. Yep. All right, anybody else?
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Easy peasy, real quick. I want to thank John Costa for all of his help. I know you're getting here late. Do you have anything? John can fill you in later, but if you wanted a moment to put me on the spot, here it is.
I'll read over this, and if anything comes to mind, I'll ask you a question.
Okay, all right, sounds good. All right, thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks for all your work on this. Thank you.